lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.
Beyond. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 382 of IGN's podcast Beyond, the #1 PlayStation podcast in the universe.
Woo!
I am your host, Max Scoville. Hi, I'm new. With me, Brian Altano, Marty Sleva,
Hey, everybody.
and Jared Petty.
Greetings.
All of you guys are more well-known to our audience than I am. This is terrifying. This is a new thing. This is a new generation. I'm scared out of my mind.
You don't have to be scared. You have Old Orange.
This is homemade morphine.
Okay, there we are.
I was explaining this before we started. This is of course in preparation of taking on this massive, just tremendous responsibility of the most popular podcast on IGN. As the new guy, my immune system has just crumbled like a Dickensian orphan in the streets.
Okay.
And I'm fighting off the beginnings of a cold, so that means that I'm basically approaching this like Batman in The Dark Knight Returns towards the end, and I'm just like, I'm gonna fight this with pills the best way I can.
Okay.
Homemade morphine is 3 emergencies in a liter of water with a 5-hour energy on top.
Yeah.
That's not street legal.
I don't think it is.
No.
It's David Blaine street magic.
Greg Miller does chicken wings. You do homemade morphine.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
okay.
So yeah, we should probably address the fact that this is a new thing, and we are not the guys who they're used to. And I really don't want to screw this up. You know, I just want to say hi, hello, everybody. It's really nice to be here.
We wave a lot now.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. So if you're tuning into this, thank you, and I hope that we can, find our stride, find our rhythm.
And like we were, Max and I were talking about last week on 381, which was Greg and Colin's last episode. So Max and I are going to be on here every week. Well, as much as whatever every week means to me, because I said I was going to be on here every week, and then I was on every other week because they sent me to weird places.
Please just give everyone some level of commitment. Half of us will be here always, and none of us will be here never. But some of us will be here
you're a
sometimes.
Time
This is a labyrinth riddle.
You're like the dad in Boyhood.
Yeah.
You show up every 3 or 4 years. You're like, hey guys,
Cats
I got a
in
new
the
guitar.
cradle
What's
and the
up?
silver spoon.
But we're going to be, this is going to be a different show. Obviously, we're different people. We're not going to try to emulate the amazing thing that Greg and Colin did. But we're gonna take what they did best, which was just open a dialogue with the fans, with the community, with the listeners. And this is not us talking to you. This is talking with you, which you're going to see because I printed out notes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think anybody here is attempting to be like a cover version of your favorite band. We just want to make some new music. So let's get out there and smash some guitars.
Yeah, I think
Or
the thing
Vitas.
we realized is no, don't do that.
Okay,
Don't
no,
do
let's
that.
not.
We're not
Don't
going to
smash
smash the
it
Vita.
It's a
Vitas
broken.
are
It's a
wonderful.
lovely
We're gonna-
handheld.
All right.
It's
Smash the PSP Ghost.
Jeez, I'm sorry
we
about
can
the Vita
in fact smash the PSP Ghost.
Smash the
good.
pocket stations.
So,
There we go.
All of the pocket stations.
That sounds like an album or something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it
But
is.
yeah, an opportunity to come together and celebrate all things PlayStation that are worth celebrating, and make fun of all things PlayStation that are worth making fun of. It's a great combination.
And
yeah.
some of the things are going to stay the same. Some things are going to change. Some segments are going to go away. We're going to have some new segments, one of which we're going to debut later, which we're all pretty stoked for. So it should be cool.
It's sorcery in action.
It
I'm
is
so excited,
sorcery
you
in
guys.
action.
Yeah. I cannot believe I'm sitting here. I 2.5 years ago, I was a fan that got invited out to E3 because I had a part in a contest, and I was just walking around going, oh, no, no. Now I'm sitting here on an episode of Beyond with people I worshipped for years.
Oh,
it's kind of this is
too much.
riveting. I'm just a little overwhelmed. I mean,
Worshipping Max is like worshipping Rockstar because then you realize that the Rockstar has a prescription
morphine
pill
problem.
addiction.
That's okay. No, I worship dark gods. I worship Azathoth and Cthulhu and
Is that first one real?
Yeah.
I like to think that an ancient evil has been awakened.
Yeah.
I don't know where I heard that. I think it was in a game
I
somewhere.
think you heard it on
An
your
ancient
shirt.
evil.
I don't worship
Ancient evils
anything.
being
I don't worship anything I can't spell.
You can't spell? No.
That's a hard rule for me.
So Yog Shoggoth is probably out.
He's
right?
out. Yeah,
Okay.
that dude's on its own.
So we're off to a good start talking
Yeah.
about PlayStation on
Yeah.
this video game podcast. We do want to talk about that.
Yeah, I know what
What should we talk about? Like what's
this
going on?
is-
I feel like no
this-
matter what we do, it's just someone's going to be
So this is
huffy
gonna be
about it. So
this
let's
is
just
gonna
have
be,
fun.
Are you saying that it's time for some news?
News
Time
is
for some
loose.
news?
News is loose. Why did you sound like a
The
ghost?
news is
So I
loose.
feel
The news ghost.
Children's
we-
programming. The news
I-
is loose.
the Roper Report is typically the news segment.
Yeah.
I have no idea who that is.
That's fine.
I
It
feel
was
really.
Ebert's partner in
That's
the balcony.
literally who I thought they were referring to, and I was like, I don't get this joke. And then Greg made a bunch of noises, and it's like, I don't want to pretend to be like in on this joke, and I don't know. It feels disingenuous to be like,
Yeah.
Let's
So
bring
the
it back.
Roper report might change. If it does, maybe we'll get Chris Roper in here.
So here,
to do the handing of the torch.
So
Editors
let's-
of days gone by.
Yes, exactly.
In the meantime, we have the news ghost.
The
who
news
is
ghost.
News.
Spooky. Obviously, the big thing that was happening all weekend, the news ghost ruined everything. This whole episode is haunted by the news ghost.
Okay.
The big thing that happened all weekend was a bunch of leaked playthroughs of The Order 1886 popped up online.
Yep.
And everyone was like, hey, this game is only like 4, 5, 6 hours long.
4, 5, 6, 7, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
3.
And,
That's a big difference there.
That is a
That's-
big difference.
I mean, it really depends on, I guess, if you stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
If you kind of just peek under every stone. I don't know if that game is full of stones you can peek under.
Just it has a ton of stones, but we got a ton of emails about this. Everyone in the Facebook group was talking about this. Jody Clark emailed us and called this game length gate. I officially don't want to use the term gate in anything anymore.
Yeah,
But this is game length gate. A bunch of people were sort of comparing this to saying, well, James Hoffman wrote in and said, Journey Journey's a 2-hour, 3-hour game. Everyone loves it, but it costs $15 as opposed to $60. So,
Okay.
Can you really justify that? And so we want to sort of, I just want to pose a question to you guys. Like, are you fine with, a $60 AAA game, only taking 1 or 2 sittings?
Depends on how good it is. I mean, I haven't played this yet, so I don't know what it's going to be like.
Right.
But I can think of games that I wish were shorter, would have been better if they were shorter. I think about Alien Isolation, which would have been a better game if it were shorter.
Absolutely.
I think about Knack, which would have been a much better game if it were shorter.
Yeah.
These were both high budget titles that would have been significantly improved by less length, less filler. So there are times I'm okay with it. I realize games are expensive. I also know that they cost a whole lot of money to make, and at some point we're going to have to pay more or get less game per purchase. And if it's fun, I think Portal 2, that's a short game and it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are times it works. I would prefer, if they have to choose between giving me a short good experience or a long mediocre experience that they've padded out, I'll take the short one every time.
yeah.
Well, so here's the thing. No one ever says, this game that I spent 200 hours playing should cost more.
Yeah.
No one ever says that, but they do the opposite version of that argument, which is this game I only played for 3 or 4 hours should cost less. And I don't really agree with that. I mean, not necessarily. And I think part of it is because A, I'm older and I'm an adult and I buy my own games and stuff like that. And B, I don't really have sort of the time I used to have to invest hundreds of hours in a game. But I think it is really important to understand the vision of a developer and a storyteller, to sort of say, our story is this long. Now, The Order might have its own set of problems, right? We don't know. We haven't reviewed it yet. A review will be coming out, Thursday?
Yes, it'll be Thursday morning.
Thursday
the game
morning.
comes out Friday.
So we'll know then the actual quality of the entire experience. But taking away all of that, what we're debating here is length. And I don't necessarily feel that everything should be chastised for being shorter than something that's 100 hours long. I know people want the most bang for their buck. I totally understand that. But maybe you're looking in the wrong place, because I think that sometimes experiences are better when they're shorter, and we should celebrate those instead of forcing them to pad themselves to make your wallet feel better.
So I think that a term that I harp on a lot is brevity is the soul of wit.
Yeah.
Which is really, if you can, I'm the horrible example of this. And also I love that we are having an hour-long podcast to discuss conciseness
brevity.
being important.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
But we're
Yeah.
hypocrites. That's what we do.
Totally. But I mean, I think that one thing that's really important to note is the difference. If you are an adult man who can spend $60 on a game kind of on a whim and be like, hey, my girlfriend has to work this weekend, I'm going to go and buy a game. And that's not like 2 months worth of allowance or whatever. Or
Yeah.
that's not you mowing lawns, That's an entirely different, approach to take than if you're somebody who gets 2 games a year.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, it comes down to, replay value and stuff. I love games they can be like the complexity of a Nerf ball, or they can be like a massive novel, you know?
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, like Peggle and Dragon Age Inquisition are both video games.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Both fun video games.
Yeah.
Worth playing.
But totally different in every possible
Yeah.
way. And it's just, I think there's unicorns in both. But,
Yeah.
it's
In point of fact, there are unicorns in both. Yes.
I
Nailed
hate,
it.
I hate the trudge of games where it's like you're not saying anything, like when it's just stretched out, when it's
Yeah.
kind of when it is padded.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a huge difference between like an epic RPG where it's like, this is an 80-hour experience. You are exploring a world. There's just there's a world here, They've said from the get-go that the Order is supposed to be a filmic experience.
Yeah.
Because cinematic has been played out too much. But I'm not really surprised by this because if you look at that game, it's beautiful. Like they clearly put all of their skill points into the graphics tree. And
is that how games are made?
yes, with a tree.
They
buried some graphics in the backyard and they watered it and watched it grow.
You put a polygon under some fresh dirt and then
grows up there from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that I'm actually kind of excited about this news. Like, I feel really like a total sham of a man for saying this, but like, I don't know. I'm busy with work. I'm busy with a lot of things. I just got a house. Like, there's a lot of real life stuff that sometimes gets in the way of shooting werewolves with a thermite gun. And to hear that that's not a 12-hour game is sort of a sigh of relief because I want to experience the whole thing. I want to see it start to finish, but I don't want it to be like a thing that takes me a month to do.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head earlier where I'm of a different mind about this now than I would have been 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, totally.
When I was, elementary school through probably even early college when I still had a lot of free time but didn't have a lot of money and I could buy, a very small handful of games every year. Like if I spent my $60 on something and I was like, oh, I finished it in one sitting, like I think I'd be bummed out back then. Games were generally short. I mean, like when I think about the Super Nintendo games I got, like if I got The Lion King for Christmas, I don't think I was complaining that. Well, I don't think I ever beat The Lion King because that game's impossible.
Exactly.
Well, that's the thing. We didn't have save states back then, so a lot of these quote unquote short games actually required a ridiculous amount of time to finish.
It was that damn Hakuna Matata level.
Oh my God!
There was no ground for like a mile, and you had to jump on elephants.
Which doesn't make sense because Africa has a ton of ground. I haven't been to Africa, but like pictures I've seen, it's a lot of ground.
It's not 90% pits. And
right, but it also has more than 2 dimensions.
There's that as well.
But it's funny you mentioned that because I remember growing up, coming home from school after just a crappy day, which happens constantly when you're alive, and I would go home and I would beat DuckTales for NES or Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers because I knew I could beat these games in an hour and get up and afterwards I could be like, I feel better. I just accomplished something. I just beat that stupid cartoon cat with the cigar.
You threw apples at him and he died.
And I felt good about that. And I don't know if the Order, again, like we don't know about the quality of this game. I don't know if the Order is going to be one of those games where, say you can beat it in 5 hours. If you're just like, I don't know what I want to do today. I want to fly through this game in 4.5 hours, 5 hours, and get that same sort of feeling of like I experienced something from start to finish, which is very different than when I play Far Cry for an hour. I'm just like, I want to mess around and blow up elephants.
I hate the animals. They must be on fire today.
Yeah, because they let me down in the Hakuna Matata level on the Lion King.
It all comes down to beating a big cat. It's just, before you had to throw acorns at it, now you just set it on fire.
So this is really the new Cruelty to Animals podcast.
It really is.
Sorry, we're both on it. It's going to go that direction.
Yeah. Okay. So, but I mean, I also, and I've been saying this a lot recently, but I think that if you have the time to be sort of upset about the game's length, that you've talked about it for hours, you have to add those hours to the game's length.
Yeah, I mean, seriously.
Because now you have an 8.5-hour game, because you're also calculating the 3 hours that you went on message boards and Facebook and stuff like that, and you said, I'm not happy about that.
Or they could make that like a box quote, hours of metagame entertainment.
Totally.
It's a new feature.
I think it's important. It reminds me of back in the day, people used to complain about loading times. And they're like, no, loading times were 20 minutes. And I'm like, well, how long did you spend angry about this?
Yeah.
Was it an hour? Because then the loading times win.
Yeah. You obviously never owned a Neo Geo CD.
No.
So I think
how could you tell?
That stupid juggling monkey.
I think there's a third option here. I don't know how many options we had, but the fact that games are $60 point blank is kind of a stupid thing. Like we're seeing the beginning of digital distribution done right.
Yeah.
We are seeing $15, $20 games. We're seeing free games with PlayStation Plus. That's awesome, but there still is that kind of that AAA standard of here's a $60 game.
Yeah, I mean that's the problem. There is it's the budget reflects the need to make it $60.
And I don't know if they're probably selling them at a loss at this point.
I don't know if it's maybe $60 isn't the right way. Maybe if you sell it at $40, you'll sell enough more copies that you'll make that money up.
There's also games are $60, but they don't have to be. And I don't mean they don't have to be for developers. I mean they don't have to be for you. Like, you don't have to buy a game at $60 point blank on day one from Best Buy with, actual cash or something. You can get a deal on it. You can trade some stuff in. You can go to Amazon and wait till there's a price drop. You can wait until it's on PlayStation Plus. Like, it's not the olden days where you would just walk into a store and be like, well, Clay Fighter 33 1/3 is still $95 because inflation.
I think you just convoluted Clay Fighter and the Naked Gun.
It was
there.
63 and a third.
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Because it
Yeah,
was Clay
I think
Fighter
it did.
64.
See, that's the game I always wanted.
Is Leslie Nielsen in your
fighting
Clay Fighter game?
That'd
Yep.
be
His
amazing.
wife's a Clay Fighter game.
That would have been significantly better than Clay Fighter.
Yeah.
God, I
Earthworm
wish.
Jim was in that game, wasn't he?
Earthworm
Maybe.
Jim's the worst.
Yeah, he was in the PC version.
God,
Whatever
I hate
you can
Earthworm
do in your brain to remember that game better than it actually was.
Okay.
You
That-
do it.
that-
That you do that revisionist history. But yeah, I mean, no one's telling you to buy a game point blank for $60 on
Well,
day one.
there's the buy it, skip it, rent it mentality. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I think that there's also that you don't have to have it. You can wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it might be on sale in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, also, so many rad games
friend
came out
might
at the
have
end
it.
of last year that you probably haven't played yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have like 5 games just stacked up next to my TV that I'm like, man, I want to get to Dragon Age, but it is 10,000 hours long, and that horrifies me.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
honestly, the order appeals to me in that way.
Yep.
Even though, I've played at preview events, and I've said on the podcast that I wasn't super thrilled with the gameplay, but I thought the game was gorgeous and the
Yeah.
world was really cool. And hearing like, well, if I'm not thrilled with the gameplay, but there's only 5, 6, 7 hours of it, and a lot of it's cutscenes, then sure, I'll totally do this over the weekend.
There was like a year and a half where for 10 or 15 minutes a day, I would pick up my phone and play Simpsons Tapped Out.
God, that was a dark time.
And by play, I mean just sort of like begrudgingly poke at things on
Cha-ching,
a
cha-ching,
screen.
woohoo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just hearing sound effects. And I wasn't really actively engaged in it or anything. And every now and then you'd build a little house and put it in there. It's just it's a little
That sounds
kind
like
of
the saddest life.
It is. It's a dopey little Farmville clone, but like when you're sitting there waiting for a train, you have 5 minutes to kill. But that game was free, and I think I maybe put 25 or 30 real dollars into it over the course of a year and a half. And to me, that game, had you been like that wouldn't, that if that was 10 cents every time you played it, that would have added up to probably a couple $100 or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. But we didn't have that business model, and I'm glad we didn't because the sticker shock would have scared me off to begin with. But if you went and calculate how many hours people have spent in a game like Skyrim, and you're like, this is what you owe because you think that short experiences should cost less. So by that logic, long experiences should cost more. Here's your bill.
Yep.
I mean, that's kind of unfair, right?
And-
So you
and
can't
by-
have it both ways.
And by the way, this is a discussion that's been going on forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember reading message boards back in days of yore during PS1 era, people griping about Parasite Eve being too short, for
Yeah.
example. We've been having this fight for 15, 20 years. It's
also-
still going on.
It's selling the medium short. Like
Yeah.
it's I mean, poor choice of words, but it's embarrassing, you know?
Yeah,
Like
no one's walking into like a, I was about to say Woody Allen movie, but let's go to a different director.
Yeah.
A Scorsese movie,
Yeah.
and being like, oh, it's only an hour and 45 minutes long. Like I feel like I had my,
Yeah.
I
I just
wasted my time and money. It's like,
I just
no.
started watching Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
fantastic.
those are basically hour-long movies.
Yeah.
And it's awesome because they get everything done and there's no slump. And I can think of a ton of movies that would be so good if they were an hour long.
Like every Judd Apatow movie ever. That
Well,
is
we don't
45
because
minutes
we
too
don't
long.
we don't have this genre in gaming. We don't have short games as a genre like books have
Short stories
short
or
stories,
novellas,
and
yeah.
films have short films.
Yeah. I mean, we have it as a genre, like in indie games, but we don't have AAA games. Can't be
Right.
Like
well,
we,
that's
we
the thing.
refuse to have
We
that.
call it an indie game like it's a handicap. And
Yeah.
we go like shove
Yeah.
it over there with the art school kids and the
Yeah.
the band geeks and stuff like that. The weirdos on the side that make 2-hour-long games. Like Gone Home was something that I finished in 2 hours, 2.5 hours,
Yeah.
maybe even less than that.
it's like an EP kind of.
yeah, and I loved it. And I think it's very important to have those kind of things.
You paid $20 for 2 hours of gameplay, and in 2013, that was the best $20 I spent on a game.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, whether or not you enjoyed it or enjoyed the gameplay of it, you have to enjoy, or you have to at least accept the fact that some people want to tell that story in that way. And we have to allow that. And I don't know if that means creating a genre, and I don't know what you do there. Like, I don't know if back in the day, The Lottery and The Gift of the Magi were sold for less than, any other book.
I
Gift of the
think
Magi's
that
the best.
Gift of the Magi's okay. The O. Henry.
It's
Absolutely.
okay. This is the guy who's also he made on Game Scoop. You made fun of Banjo Kazooie, and he made fun of Game of Thrones. He said the last season of Game of Thrones was
What I said was last season of Game of Thrones, not a lot happened. That's what I said. The first episode and the last episode were great. Everything in between, pretty much nothing happened except a 5-minute fight scene.
Yep.
There was a horse in it at some point.
Yeah, Game of Thrones is a good show that had a bad season. Banjo-Kazooie just sucks. And
What about that part in the last season where the hound got in that fight over chickens?
that was great.
That was the best food-related fight scene since the Fast and the Furious tuna fish sandwich scene.
There's a great cosplay
chickens.
from
you're
Comic
not.
Con. Yeah, there was a dude walking around Comic Con dressed as the Hound, and he just had a bucket of KFC. I love
pretty
that
good.
photo.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty
brilliant.
fantastic.
But yeah, the order. I feel like we covered its length. We're going to cover the game.
If the order leaks, is it the pre-order?
Oh, man.
Drink your morphine.
Drink your morphine.
The full review by Brandon Tyrrell is going to go up Thursday morning. The game comes out Friday.
Of House Tyrell?
Of House Tyrell.
Or the Tyrell Corporation.
Jeez. And then Max and I are going to be playing the order live from 1 to 3 p.m. Pacific on Friday. IGN
So we'll be playing it twice?
Live plays. Yes, we'll be
Hey.
We just talked about how we were going to be above this.
Yuck, 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 zing.
Yeah, yuck, yuck, zing, indeed. So look out for that. That'll be cool.
Also, kids, read O. Henry. He's good.
Oh, Henry. You know what? One
Or
game.
eat O. Henry, because that's a good candy bar.
I've never had an O. Henry. What is that?
You're just
That's
a trash feed.
no way.
What's
no
an O.
offense,
Henry?
but you've totally had an O. Henry.
What's an O. Henry? No, I don't know. What is this?
You've really
Never had
an
no Henry? There was an entire Seinfeld
It's from the people
episode
who
about
brought
them.
you the whatchamacallit and the Handshake Avenue or the fifth.
Who's
the,
more-
the fifth?
Avenue.
The fifth.
That's when you go
road
downtown
out,
with a $20 bill.
It's a candy bar named after a short story writer? What is this?
It's
No.
one of those like
lottery.
mid-tier candy. It's like Hershey was always trying to keep it down.
It's
Like
a candy.
over or under Zero Bar?
So
Oh,
it's the kind of
excuse me.
candy bar that I.
Zero Bar.
You a big Zero Bar fan?
I'm a huge Zero Bar apologist. Champion, I'd like to say.
I just bought 5 Zero Bars. I had to drive to Walnut Creek to buy them. No, they were.
I love
You've
you,
never
Jack.
had an O. Henry.
I
they
bought
were
0.5 bars because they don't exist.
No, they were a gift from my wife's therapist who's moving on to a new job, and
Did you like Zero Bars?
he loves Zero Bars,
Oh, okay.
and he can't get. And the only place in the area I've been able to find them is this candy store in Walnut Creek, like 40 minutes from my house. So
I only associate Zero Bars and O. Henry's and whatchamacallits with things I buy when I'm drunk. Because when I'm drunk and go to a convenience store, I'm like looking around and like my mind, like I'm not going to the go-to thing. It's like, man, I'm gonna branch out.
All right, so
yeah, but you're drunk a lot. So
I'm
you
on
probably,
the
I mean,
I'm on the
that's-
O. Henry Wikipedia page, which was clearly written by somebody that was hit in the head with something heavy at some point. O. Henry is a candy bar containing peanuts, caramel, and fudge coated in chocolate. It was first introduced in 1920 by the Williamson Candy Company of Chicago, Illinois.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
That's
it's,
good
I mean,
ingredients.
It's from
it's
Chicago.
your,
It must
gotta
be a
be
good
good.
candy bar.
it's
yeah.
your classic mix of fudge, chocolate, caramel, and peanuts, which you really can't go wrong
Yeah.
with. But something about them, they just never really reached the stratosphere of candy bar territory.
Chewy or crunchy taste? Like, do they lean toward like the Butterfinger, like stale taste, or more
It
like
doesn't
toward the
really
chewy
have that
Snickers
sort of
taste?
crumbly snap to it, if
Okay.
that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
World's #1 PlayStation podcast.
All right, what
Welcome
else
to
we
Candy
got?
Cast.
One.
Wait, actually, hold on. Before we move on, Jared.
Yeah.
If you're gonna give those candy bars, the Zero Bars, to your wife's doctor, I think you should put them on a check and just slide it across the desk and be like, "Bet you never seen that many zeros on a check before."
I'm gonna make a big Ed McMahon novelty check and do that now.
Welcome
Thank
to
you
Pun-
so
welcome
much.
to
realize he's-
Podcast-Beyond.
You realize he's a doctor, so he probably has seen
No,
so many
this is
zeros.
this is a physical therapist. This is a therapist, so he's
just a
not
therapist.
quite as many zeros. Probably still, raking in the ducats. I'm
gets
guessing,
some zeros.
but yeah,
Some zeros.
yeah. He's really good too. Brian, we love you. You helped my wife walk again. Thank you.
Hi, Brian.
Oh, not me. I've never done that.
No. Well,
You've only hindered.
You're like, rise up, take up your mat, and she was just like, go away.
Wow.
Yeah, that was.
I don't know what is happening.
I've tried. I'm gonna. Keep
I was trying
cheering
to.
from silence.
I was trying to make Bible humor. I failed. So.
Speaking
Exactly.
of something that's also failed, The Last Guardian.
The Last Guardian.
So over the weekend, there was a hubbub because people figured out that Sony allegedly abandoned the trademark for The Last Guardian, which has actually happened a couple times in the last 6 years. But then our buddies at GameSpot, I don't know why we didn't do this, but our buddies at GameSpot reached out to Sony, and Sony was like, no, this is just a clerical error. Don't worry, it's still in development.
The light bulb on our trademark went out, and we had to change it.
It's fine.
This is just the theory of large numbers in action,
Yeah,
I think. Just
yeah.
like The Last Guardian has been unpublished for so long that this was bound to happen at some point. It's just, it's monkeys on typewriters at this point.
And, when I saw the news initially that the trademark went up, I wasn't surprised. I actually thought that it was sort of on purpose because it was in December, Fumito Ueda, the creative director of Ico and Shadow, and now he's not at Sony anymore, but he's still working on this game.
He's like a contractor or something?
He's like a contractor, but he said the development's still going strong, but that it's under, quote, completely new conditions, which in my mind meant, obviously, it's not a PS3 game anymore because that's
Match
not
3 puzzle
significant.
game for
Straight to
iOS.
mobile phone.
It's
Yeah,
a match
straight
3
to
puzzle
mobile.
game.
That's it.
I also think
Quiz and Dragons.
I think it's going to get re-revealed as a game with a different name and entirely different game.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, well, Last Guardian, I don't care what it's called because I don't think it's going to be called that anymore.
The Final Protector.
The Final Protector.
I wonder if this is something that people are still really passionate about, or if there's that just sort of morbid curiosity to be like, what is this thing and why is it taking so long?
It stars
like,
Duke Nukem now.
Yeah, it's reached that Duke Nukem Forever line where you have to pass through that line, and you're all of a sudden at this new sea level of being like, I don't know if this is good anymore, and I don't know if I care. I just want to see this like giant dog-driven train wreck crawl out of the shadows, and I can tell what this is. But it's weird to me that like you tell me, you talk about the creative director of like two of the most amazing PlayStation games of all time, and he's been sort of stuck behind this project for so long, and it makes me wonder, like, if it wasn't for this game, maybe we would have gotten 3 other games in the meantime. Like, I don't know how that works, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. We've brought it up on the show a few times since Shadow of the Colossus released. Naughty Dog has released Jack X, Uncharted 1, 2, and 3, The Last of Us, Left Behind DLC, and most likely Uncharted 4.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
It's
in the
insane.
span that Team Ico has not released a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Wow,
It's
I just-
kind of
now
really
sad.
sad.
It's
Yeah, that's
worrisome.
really sad.
I'm sad.
I don't know.
It makes me think that if like 10 years ago somebody was like, "Nah, man, I'll make a bet with you. I'm only going to play Team Eco games, and you can play the Naughty Dog games." It's like, all right,
I would
Have a good life.
I want it to come out so that we can have postmortems about it.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to know what happened in that development that went wrong, because I would pay so much money for a full-on like interactive documentary behind the scenes about Duke Nukem Forever.
Absolutely.
And
Oh, yeah.
even more for something that's a good game. But it's like, I think that question of what went wrong, what's slowing it down.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that the Bureau, for instance,
Yeah.
that suffered a lot from being being announced wrong, being announced before it was done.
Yeah.
Being like, hey, kids, we're making weird, melty, bubbly cookie dough. And everyone's like, that looks gross. We don't want that. And they're like, yeah, but it's not done yet. It's going to be totally different. And then
Don't worry. Yeah, it's not even the same genre or
Too many
creative
cooks spoil the broth. And it was just kind of a revolving door of different people coming in and working on that game. And the thing that they announced versus the thing they released was just this Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
it's-
endemic in the industry of announcing something too early.
And I wonder if it's the same thing with Team Eco, or if it's.
I've probably given them a shout out in the show before, but I want to do it again. I'm a big fan of a website called Unseen64.
Oh, yeah,
Are
absolutely.
you familiar with that?
No, I don't know.
Oh my God.
Really?
Totally.
You
No.
of
Yeah.
all people would absolutely love them.
Oh, I'm excited.
They are a website that documents and chronicles the sort of alternate versions and canceled versions of games that never actually happened. So there was that version of Resident Evil 4 where Leon's like shooting ghosts.
Hook-
He
hook-
disappears.
hook ghosts.
He's in a haunted house. Like there's levels from Mario 64 that never came out.
And they just
There's-
gather all these into one
and
place.
they gather it all together, like stuff
Why
like
am I
that.
sitting
There's
here
that-
talking?
That
Let's
Crash
go.
Bandicoot where he kills a cop.
Yeah.
Wasn't that?
Yeah, Cop Killer Bandicoot.
That sounds like Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
It was Ice Cube was the voice of Crash. It was crazy.
Gosh, and Brendan was sitting watching Shadow the other day, like on a live stream while he was
Sorry.
working. Apparently, there's a mission in Shadow the Hedgehog where you like go kill the president. He said this was real.
Shocking that Sega.
That's what they mean by shadow government.
Yeah.
So I want to know, like, in a few years, I'm totally with you, Max. Like, I'm a big fan of. I think EGM used to do them too. It was sort of like they would talk to developers after a game is out, and I feel like that is the most important time to talk to somebody.
Yeah, that's when you get amazing stories.
You know, we're heading into the next season of Up at Noon. Max and I are taking that show over. But before the old season that I did with Greg, we used to just have developers on every week. And one of my most fascinating things that I learned is that talking to somebody before a game comes out and talking to somebody after a game comes out, you are talking to two completely different people.
Yep.
You're talking to a person who's like, oh, we were able to do real-time weapon, blah, 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 and our game supports 64 players. And a month later, they're just like, we tried so bad to make a boss out of a lamp, but he didn't work. But I wanted it so badly, but we couldn't do it. And you're like, why wasn't it there? And it's like, oh, we know, we just didn't have time. And you don't hear that because no one ever tells you the shortcomings of a game before it comes out.
Right.
So I'm fascinated in hearing years later, sort of just like, this was the most ambitious game ever made, and it turned into a pop-up book.
Yeah.
And now it is where it is, and I'm sorry, but it's canceled, or it's out, or the version you played was a 6 out of 10, but this was almost this like GTA with a giant Wolverine or whatever animal that is.
I want to play that so bad.
Right? Like, who
modding
knows?
community, jump to it.
Who knows? So I think that's fascinating. So yeah, check out Unseen64. They have this sort of amazing timeline of alternate dimensional games we never got to play, canceled games, and things that didn't really ever exist.
You've ruined my day. I can't wait.
There was going to be an Akira game.
Really?
That was going to be like Road Rash.
Oh, God.
And the only things that exist about it are a few screenshots that were trickled out. I think this was pre E3, so there wasn't that kind of trade show culture.
Yeah.
And there are no existing builds of it anywhere.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those things that it just maybe it's somewhere in a dumpster, maybe it just doesn't exist. But there's like 5 screenshots. and they look awesome. It was for Sega and Super Nintendo. And
Man.
Now, I love what like Frank Cifaldi does with Lost Levels, grabbing all that stuff, chronicling. But these alternate build things, I cannot wait.
That sounds really cool.
Did we ever really get this sort of like postmort on Duke Nukem Forever? I know we got like notes here and there, and then lawsuits and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is behind lawsuits.
One of the coolest things that I have, so I've got a friend who works at 2K, and I'm apparently the only person who wants Duke Nukem flavored garbage in his house. So I have like a whole set of Duke Nukem shot glasses, and I've got like the collector's edition of the strategy guide, which is just this big hideous gold hardcover thing with the Atomic logo on the cover. And the best part of that is the last maybe 50 pages are all concept art, and it changes so much.
Yeah,
like that game was really, really, really offensive. Like more than it ended up being. There was a female character who was an Asian lady whose name was Miso, like the soup, Miso Honey.
Oh.
Like Miso Horny, but yeah.
Thanks for explaining that one.
I'm really glad that didn't happen.
But then there were also, I mean, there was a lot of also like really cool designs that just got scrapped or whatever. And there's the thing that sucks about it is that when that came out, they were trying so hard to sell the game and like hype it up, and they're like, we're really excited this game is finally coming to fruition. And I just want to go through that with like, I don't know, George Broussard or somebody and be like, what happened there? What changed? Because this, I mean, the early stuff was like hideous, like late mid '90s Wildstorm comics, like Area 51 Aliens, and just stuff you'd see in a skateboard catalog.
Wow.
Oh.
And then it changed just so much.
Yeah, I've heard stories about a pitched Duke Nukem. I can't tell the story. I'll ask the guy if I have permission to tell the story. But a pitched Duke Nukem game recently sounded incredible and would absolutely like revitalize that series and be insanely topical.
Is it a Super Mario RPG style game?
It is absolutely It's Duke Nukem Legend of the Seven Stars.
I'm totally okay with that.
As long as there's a guy named Gino in it, I'm cool.
Yeah, Gino. Oh my gosh, I forgot about Gino.
Gino should be in every game.
Yeah,
just an Italian guy.
I was about to say, shocking that Brian Altano wants a little Italian puppet in all of his video games. Speaking of Italy, Assassin's Creed takes place in Italy.
Wow. Yeah, nice.
You know what?
I like how you did that.
That was a big leap of faith there.
After 33 minutes, I had to get on to the third story. So.
It's all right. This is the marathon of content that Beyond fans demand.
It's just
never
going to end.
This is
we're all actually going to get fired because we're going to miss everything else today.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm actually launching a new show called Speaking of Italy.
Speaking of Italy?
Hey!
Speaking of Italy with Brian Altano.
What a disaster.
Stupid Valentine's Day.
There's news on the Assassin's Creed movie front. We all know that Michael Fassbender is starring, which is super exciting because he's the best. But
because he's a real
actor. He was in
real
Shame and 12 Years a Slave, and he was incredible in those. He was always he was naked in all of Shame. Remember Shame?
Oh yeah, he was really naked in that
his
movie.
wiener was just everywhere. Can I say wiener?
I think you'd probably say that word.
Only if I can say Michael Fassboner.
Yeah, sure. Just get it all out of your system, guys.
The morphine's finally kicking in.
Will he be naked in Assassin's Creed?
I don't know, but his co-star is going to be Marion Cotillard, who was Oscar-winning actress for La Vie en Rose. She's in Inception.
Right.
She's super incredible. And so the two of those paired with, it's the director of a Macbeth movie that's about to come out with the two of those. This is the guy who's directing Assassin's Creed. I'm like, oh, man, it's like when Kenneth Branagh took over Thor.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man, you've directed like Shakespearean dramas, and now you're taking over Thor. Which and that first Thor movie wasn't great, but the sort of pedigree behind it was all right. Yeah.
It had that Kenneth Branagh had that. He brought that
gravitas,
that pump,
that gravitas.
I mean, so this production's beginning on this movie in a few months, and that's gonna be released December 21st, 2016.
Wow.
But I don't know. Like we're still like everyone's looking for that white whale of which I'm so sick of talking about. But when are we gonna get the first?
You know what? I think that
movie?
this could be good. I think this could actually be good. I honestly, I don't hate Assassin's Creed. I am so frustrated with its completely ham-fisted storytelling.
Yeah.
I think that there's a really, really cool story in there that they managed to just kind of shuffle around and smear around. But you have this world that's already built, and if you get a good writer to go in and like kind of cherry pick the stuff that's compelling, the Assassin's Creed comics, the ones that are in like the Russian Revolution, are awesome.
Really cool.
Really good. And
so have they talked at all about like how are they going to just jump into Italy and be like, this is where the story takes place, or are they going to pull out to the company in the present time, or the Garden of Eden, and all the other.
We don't know if any of that meta story is going to be in there. We don't know if this is going to, if Michael Fassbender is going to play Altair and it's going to take place during the Crusades, or if he's going to be Ezio and it's going to be during the Renaissance.
I mean, if they make a cross between the Matrix and Timeline, they're kind of there.
Yeah,
well, that could come out, but this could also end up being Bram Stoker's Dracula. I mean, sometimes you get a great director and great actors together, and you end up with a grease fire. So not that I speculate that that's what's going to happen, but
this isn't Winona Ryder. We must defeat the creature of the night.
That was lovely. That was lovely.
Oh no, he bit me in the neck.
Dude, it's a vampire.
I have to go to Transylvania in this carriage.
And then for
a wolf doth appear.
That doth sucks, dude.
But you also had Anthony Hopkins and Gary Oldman. And the movie's still just a kind of a weird wreck. I actually love it, but it's so it doesn't always guarantee success to have great people attached, but it's a better shot than we've had in a long time at that.
Bram Stoker's Dracula was one of those many movies that I saw a Simpsons reference before I actually saw the movie. So I remember in a Treehouse of Horrors, one of them, Mr. Burns was pretty much, he had that weird butt hair.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what it was referencing. And then 2 years later,
Dracula
I saw
Dead and Loving It.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw that movie so many times that I didn't realize that we are really off track right now. No, I think that I'm actually really excited about this idea because I think that they've got such a massive just kind of Bible to work from with Assassin's Creed stuff. The thing that they need to do, that they have to do, is make this a point of entry to the series for someone who's never played the game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They've got the most it is, I would say, one of the most original premises for a game. I mean, it's still derivative in the way the games
This comes out in December of next year?
Yeah.
It seems odd that they wouldn't. I mean, it's not like they have any shortage of games in the Assassin's Creed universe coming out, but it seems odd that they're not tying this to any game. Because I have a feeling...
I mean, we don't know. Maybe it will be the
Yeah.
story of whatever next year's Assassin's Creed is. I mean, I don't know.
Because to me, it seems like Max said, if this is somebody's first Assassin's Creed experience, and they're going to be like, I love the part where you climbed the building and then jumped into hay, which I still don't understand how that's going to work in a movie. I can't wait. And the eagle's like, Sky! And he jumps into the
worst, maybe they'll find a way to make fun of it. I mean,
the worst thing is going to be like the news story of Michael Fassbender breaks neck on stunts gone horribly awry.
Yeah. Well, I hope if
awry, was that a hay joke? A grain harvesting joke?
I don't think so. That was
like a pile
what
of
kind
rye?
of deep cut is that?
The universe's #1 PlayStation podcast.
Yeah.
No, I do hope they have a scene where Michael Fassbender is running down the street and he accidentally jumps onto the side of a wall instead of hitting somebody.
Yeah,
because that's what I do in that game 90% of the time.
Yeah.
No, I just really think it'll be a missed opportunity if people go see that movie and they come home and there is not immediately a brand new Assassin's Creed game to play. But there will be no shortage of old ones for them to
I feel
play,
like they've been missing the chance to basically have a fresh start with that franchise for the last 3 or 4 games. You know? I was hoping they did that thing that publishers always do where they're like, Unity is going to be our chance for people to really just get a fresh start and learn about this universe. And it's like, you didn't try. You didn't just...
I think what happens is you have so many different studios and teams all over the world working on that. And there isn't one specific, let's have a conference where we get everyone in a room and we just go, stop. Don't do that part anymore. Yeah. Because by the time they do that, there's already one team is already 3 years deep on making that mistake again.
Yeah, I mean, Ubisoft always touts, which is incredibly impressive, that their games are in development 24/7 because of just the way their studios work. But I'm like, well, that's impressive on paper, but I don't know if that's good in execution on making an actual sort of tangible, cohesive.
That's like building a house on the back of
collectibles.
building a house on the back of a moving truck.
Yeah. I always felt like I love the world building they do in those games. I love the character design. I love the art direction. When it comes to actually putting in 25 hours into one, that's when it kind of loses me. But
It's
luckily movies aren't that long.
There's a lot of things to love about the games, but there's also a lot of running around and gathering things.
And obviously, this isn't Ubisoft's first foray into movies. They did Prince of Persia with Jake Gyllenhaal.
I want Far Cry.
The fine motion picture
there's
there.
an Uwe Boll Far Cry movie already.
Yep.
Based on Far Cry 1. And then
Yep.
also,
why?
there are Splinter Cell movies in the works, directed by Doug Liman and starring Tom Hardy, who's another good actor. I like that Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
I like that guy. I am Gotham's recording.
That was pretty good. We have News of the Week, which happens literally every week. Another next-gen port of a last-gen game. This time it's Darksiders 2.
More games, okay.
I don't know if you guys remember Darksiders. It's probably the second best Zelda game you can play on a Sony system next to Okami.
So that's getting ported to next
what
gen.
about 3D Game Heroes?
Yeah. Ooh, that's pretty good. We got a letter from Luis. This is when it was it was rumored. He said, Luis said, I was on VG charts recently, saw a bit of news on Darksiders 2 Definitive Edition for PS4. The listing said it was $40, but no one had confirmed it. Do you think it'll come out? Do you think it'll be $40? When do you think it'll officially be announced? Luis? It is officially announced. IGN did it.
Is it officially $40?
It's officially $40. Yeah.
Wow, that's a good deal.
Yeah, Nordic Games told us that the authenticity of the Amazon listing is unquestionable. It's a weird way to announce a game.
That's a very weird way. Yeah. Very lore
the lie
heavy
is
there.
not a lie, but it is true.
Yeah, right? Oh, my God.
I will purchase and play this game.
Yeah, so wait,
Yeah.
did you guys play Darksiders 2?
I did. I really, really, really wanted to love it because obviously the ties to Zelda, which is one of my favorite franchises of all time. But I couldn't really get past the idea of Death being a guy that gets beat around a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, Death getting beat up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that was, I mean, and it was sort of, I think a lot of the art direction was just sort of.
Well, until he hit his growth spurt, he was a little guy. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he just got picked on a lot. They wanted his lunch money.
That was another game. That was Death
I guess
2.
it was kind of like the Anakin Skywalker thing, where it's just like, hey, here he is as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, yeah.
I'm a pod racer.
I thought it was pretty, like the art was the thing that turned me off.
Yep.
It's everything I hated about comics in the 90s.
Yeah,
that
it's
I wish we
the
could leave
McFarlane
behind.
era. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have a problem with that, and that's awesome.
You have trouble with Grifter?
Yeah.
I thought it played great though. Like actually fighting in that game, the combat was really fun.
Oh, yeah.
Like going
and
through.
it nails dungeons really well.
Yeah, they're really good. They're really good.
That game was super long too. That game should have been shorter.
Yep.
I also like the fact that you can summon your horse wherever you want, except for inside dungeons, and Death just goes, "This is no place for a horse." And I'm like, "You are literally in the afterlife. Like, this is a great place for a horse right now."
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those games where I know that there's a really strong foundation there, but everything on top of it is completely abhorrent to me, and I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah, and originally, I mean, they said that they had before THQ went under, they said that there was a plan for Darksiders 3 that was like a 4-player cooperative, almost like Borderlands.
See, that's actually sounded kind of more interesting almost, because that they were like, we're gonna make a game for each of the 4 horsemen. Like that was kind of their plan. ahead of
Marvel
time.
Cinematic Universe.
They got a little bit ahead of themselves there. Also, I love that game is like the guy who's leaving the party and says the huge big goodbye. He's like, guys, I'm heading home. I have to go. And everyone's like, goodbye. Have a good drive safe. He's like, I got to take off. And we're like, all right, see you. And he leaves and he comes back. He's like, sorry, I forgot my keys. And everyone's like, all right, we'll see you. Goodbye. And he comes back and says, oh, yeah, I got my sunglasses. I'm going to take off. And we're like, all right. And he's like, is it cool if I crash? We're like, all right, HD version, whatever, fine.
God damn it. That's how games get made.
Yeah.
How do you guys? So pretty much every week I've ever been on the show, Colin's gone on a rant saying how much he hates these HD re-releases. I guess it's not HD anymore because they were HD before. But I mean, what do you guys feel about them? Like, are you fine when you hear that Metro is coming? And
totally fine.
Yeah.
There's two sides of it. There's the version of me that's just like I only want new games, and then there's the version that understands that 70-something% of people hadn't played The Last of Us when it came to PS4, and that this is a lot of people's first console. Like the PS4 is a lot of people's first video game console in the way mine was the NES, and I can't be mad at that. And I think I'd rather give people the option to play something they never had a chance to play than suffocate that for my own selfishness because I want new experiences all the time.
I tend to err with you on the side of Super Mario All-Stars.
Yeah.
I just sit there and go, oh, look, a really cool new way to do something I love.
Yeah.
And maybe that's weak of me critically to go in and say, why aren't you making a new wonderful thing with those resources? And so there is that strong argument to be made. But when you have an established great game that a lot of people got their hands on, keep making it. I love when old games become accessible again. Grim Fandango and Resident Evil made my month.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I think especially in the case of something that was an old THQ property, which is like anytime any of their old horses get to trot out again, it's amazing to me because they all were put out to pasture a few years ago.
This is no
or
place
sent to
for
the
a
glue
horse.
factory.
the
Horses.
We do not know a lot about horses.
Love
That's
horses.
pretty much it.
Probably one
I'm
of the
afraid
best
of horses.
vehicles in the world.
I'm afraid of horses. They scare me.
You're afraid of
Yeah,
horses?
I'm terrified of horses. They scare me.
It's because of the ring?
No, it's not because of the ring. It's they're large.
Because they weren't supposed to be scary, and that was supposed to be about a little girl who's
Actually,
scary.
a couple of them committed suicide in that movie. Not while making
horses
it. Maybe they did.
committed
but-
What do you think of
Suicide?
Luck?
No, during the ring, there's a scene where the boat pulls up to like Terror Island with the hole in it, and the horses are on the boat and they jump off because they
I
hate
don't
it.
remember that.
Was that a real accident that happened, or was that part of the film?
Look, man, if that's happening, you got to turn the camera on.
I get that
it, 'cause
movie
that's
and
an
the Horse Whisperer mixed up.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a different movie.
That's not a
very
bad
different
movie.
movies.
That's not a
So
bad movie.
HD versions of games.
Yeah, big fan.
I'm all for them.
Yeah,
I think it's
why
also
not?
it a lot of times, especially at this point in like a console life cycle, it gives a game a chance to kind of take another shot.
Yeah.
Sleeping Dogs. I love that game. I thought it was fantastic, and I feel like everyone kind of slept through it.
Sure.
I think so.
But that was accidental. I'm really sorry.
I think that if you took your top tier team, right, and you said we're going to
TTT.
the TTT, the triple T's, the titties,
No, it's fine. I don't got to mark that one down.
and
We're fine.
it's not a curse, right? It's a type of bird. And you said we're going to take you guys, and for 3 years we're going to put you on an HD remake. Then yeah, that is a terrible use of resources. Terrible. But if you take the Bad News Bears or whoever is sitting around, like your second or third tier team, and you say, you're going to work on a Darksiders port for 6 months, then that's fine. Yeah, sure. Take a great game and make it better.
I think what happened was a lot of people. I mean, Mario All Stars, no one's going to complain because it was 4 rad games.
we also didn't have the internet to complain at that point.
There was that
You just
too.
had to like open your window. And
That was
complain,
like
and
you-
It was
then
just a
yelled at you.
tree in everyone's backyard that we beat up with rocks and sticks. We yelled at it.
But then even like last gen, when we had like the Metal Gear collection, we had 3 Metal Gear games. We had Eco and Shadow. We had 2 games. The Jack collection.
That's
the
awesome.
Ratchet
I
collection.
love that.
I love when it's multiple games, and so I think like I sort of understand when it's like, well, why isn't Darksiders 1 also incled in this? Why is
Yeah.
it just? I mean, I guess we don't know. It's
Yeah, that
just
was
2.
really cool for Bayonetta 2. To do
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
They just threw
They
that in
just
there.
pack it in there. Yeah,
I gotta throw it in.
yeah.
Yep.
That was good. I don't have a segue for this one, but we're moving on to a game called Helldivers.
Speaking of Italy,
Speaking of Italy, Helldivers. Have any of you guys played Helldivers at E3 / PAX's /
I've never touched it. My
PSXs.
impression is it's like top-down cooperative, shooty Lost Vikings or something. Like you.
It's less Lost Vikings and it's like a top-down Left 4 Dead.
okay,
So it's,
yeah, okay.
it's like a
All
twin-stick shooter. It's
Okay.
4 people. It's a sci-fi game. You build your loadout and go in there. But the game is just insanely hard and requires like massive amounts of team cooperation. And the game's a lot of fun. We've been hyping up. Vince and Colin both have loved the game for months. Turns out it is coming out on March 3rd.
Hey.
PS4, PS3, and the PS Vita. Look at that. We
Wow.
brought up the Vita in a
Nice.
non-violent sense.
yeah.
Marty,
nice.
is this a game where people are going to yell at me because I'm the one bad guy on the team and I'm making us like all fail?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that
No, this is
okay.
definitely that game. This
Is that
one
what
of
you
those-
do? You play like that?
What?
Yeah.
Not on purpose.
No,
I just
really?
suck at video games.
I guarantee you I'd be worse than you.
Really?
Yeah,
Are you bad at video
We
games?
should have a badness contest.
All right,
I'm good
the
with
full-
that. Let's have a badness contest.
Max is always like, "Hey guys, I found a river." We're like, keep moving. There's a boss attacking.
That was absolutely what was happening during Evolve. The 4 of us were
Really?
playing on a team, and we're like, Max, we need you. Max. He's like, I found a rock.
Yeah.
Like, this entire map is a
That
canyon.
kangaroo was looking at me funny. I'm setting it on fire with electricity.
The reason I always play the 1 in 4v1 games is because I suck at video games. So I'm just like, well, I don't have to coordinate with anybody, and
Yeah.
they'll win, and they'll all feel good.
I'm not
So,
bad. It's just asymmetrical.
you know.
Not bad. I'm asymmetrical. But Mike, at Groovy Mike. I don't know how he got at Groovy Mike. He must have been an early adopter.
A lot of people were fighting for that
He
one.
was an early adopter to Twitter. He wrote in saying that he's been checking out the awesome trailers and gameplay videos for Helldivers. The release date's penciled for the first week of March. Do you think this could be included in March's PS Plus collection?
I would say April.
You think so?
I think they frequently do that. I mean, they've done a few where it's been like out the
Yeah.
gate. Like,
Yeah.
This month with
Outlast
Apotheon
was one of them,
Outlast
right?
was one of them. Apotheon this
Yeah.
month was one of them. It seems like I don't know. Jose and I were talking about this a couple weeks ago. How Transistor was free this month.
Yeah.
and that's a game that came out in last May, I think, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. And it's one of those games everyone should play. And he was sort of like, man, like 2 months ago, I bought the game for $20, and now it's free, and I feel slighted, even though I don't know if I should be. And that's always an interesting thing. Like, I don't know, is that fair? Do you guys
Well,
feel
there's
that way?
there's that early adopter sort of depression that happens with a lot of situations.
Oh, yeah.
You buy a console. Like if you bought a PS3 at launch, it was what $7,000.
It was
Something like
$7,000.
that. Yeah.
And they were bragging about how it didn't even need games and they'd sell millions of them. And people went out and bought them and they were just like, this is the new PS3. And then a couple months later, they were price dropped, right? Or a year later, whatever it was. Same thing happened with my 3DS and I had to get that like apology certificate from Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
where they were like,
Although at least they did send you a bunch of free games.
yeah, they
so,
gave me
you
some
know.
NES games and GBA games and stuff like that. Which
You
is-
were an ambassador.
I wasn't.
You were an
Yeah.
ambassador.
You're
yeah.
allowed
I
an
don't, I
ambassador.
don't think they know what that word means.
No, I don't think so either. But I think with PlayStation Plus, it's even more complicated because you don't really know when you're buying something how quickly it can become free. And sometimes it's free a month later, sometimes it's free immediately, sometimes it's free never. And you never really know. It always gives you that sort of hesitation about buying things. Like it's a gift and the curse in that I love that every single month we write a story on IGN and it says like these are all the presents you're getting this month, and I'm like, awesome. And I go and I download all of them, even if I have no intention of playing them, just because I know that just syncing that purchase means that at some point a year from now I could get on a flight and be like, I'm playing Helldivers for free.
Yeah.
Right. But I never know what to do because I'm like, I want to buy this game right now. Like I just bought Resident Evil last month. It was $20. That is totally going to be a PlayStation Plus game within the next 6 months. This year, 100%. Because that's totally the type of game they're just like, here you go. It's $20. It's no sweat off of our backs or whatever. I don't know how that works.
Do they have sweaty backs?
They're sweaty backs.
But and these games are free-ish. Let's not forget that too. You are paying money to Sony, every month for this privilege. I mean, you are paying for these games. You're just paying for them in a really weird way. Too.
Yeah, but I mean, the $50 a year is like, I don't want to be, the guy who's like, well, that's not really paying for it. But like $50 a year is pretty.
It's a wonderful deal. It's a superb deal.
I think you just gotta look at it and be like, buy the games that you really want, and if you're on the fence about them, wait it out. I think it was Nidhogg. Like I really wanted that because I was drunk and I bought it, and then it was like free like 2 weeks later, and I was like, you know what? That's okay because I really enjoyed it. Like I had a really good time with it.
And I mean, again, we don't know how like PlayStation Plus deals work out in terms of how much the developers get from Sony, but it's nice for like indie games like that or like Transistor of paying that money and knowing that it's going to a good place. It's not going to some like evil corporation.
That's
it's
actually
going to a small group of men and women who work their asses off on building something cool and new.
And animals.
I mean, there's a lot of games have development dogs at the end.
That's right, Donnie the development dog. He sits in the corner of every studio barking yes for no. I'm a big fan of PlayStation Plus because I think that it does give a lot of people the opportunity to play a game like Transistor or Nidhogg that I don't think they ever would have. A lot of people would have looked at that game and been like, this is an indie game, it should be free. And it's like, well,
they didn't finish the graphics.
Yeah.
Where's all the graphics, guys? Yeah.
Where's the polygons? Yeah, they get mad.
I love the Nidhogg.
A game that is not going to be coming to PlayStation Plus anytime soon was announced over the weekend. It's called Dissidia Final Fantasy. I don't think anyone at this table besides me cares about Final Fantasy. Jared might care.
Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
The Dissidia series was a PSP series, and it's a fighting game series where you play as your favorite Final Fantasy warrior and you fight.
With other Final Fantasy.
That sounds awesome.
Can you punch a chocobo?
You can totally not punch a chocobo.
Actually, no, you can't punch a chocobo. No,
I don't think so.
It is also a delicious energy drink in Japan. Dissidia.
Based on the game?
Based on the game.
I thought chocobo punch.
Yeah. No, chocobo punch. I would drink chocobo punch. It's just chocobo blood mixed up with some spices. Little 5-hour energy. Well, that's what he was drinking earlier. Was chocobo punch.
Yeah, he actually. I like how you pointed it into his veins.
Well, he has a Mountain Dew tattoo.
One of my veins fell off of my arm, and it's on the floor now.
Anyway, we're saying Dissidia.
But the reason we're not going to be playing this on PlayStation Plus is because it was announced for arcades.
Yeah.
It's an arcade game. It's a 3v3 fighting game.
Stop it, Japan.
Why did
Japan
keep doing
like a
this?
fun time.
Because they still have
arcades.
arcades.
It's the same thing Nintendo did with Pokken.
Yeah. What?
Then again, there's also the fact that what if this is their chance to balance a game that they want to put out on consoles?
Yeah.
Because at this point, they are having people pay to test a game, essentially. I'm not saying it's unfinished, but arcade games are frequently like, they kind of roll those out first, and then they're like, I mean, that's how.
And arcades are still a barely viable business in Japan. You can go to Japan, you still find arcades in cities. So you can go to game centers, and some of them are owned by, like Namco owns their own arcades, Taito owns their arcades, Sega, same way.
In Shibuya, there's a huge Sega arcade that's basically just. It's 90% crane machines.
Yeah, well, that's what people pump their money into over there. And this is a culture where pachinko, a form of gambling's a well established and addictive part of what people do for fun.
It's a popular sport for children.
Kind of. The UFO catchers are kind of the training ground for pachinko. Yeah.
I don't think I told this story on the show, but Mitch Dyer and I in Shibuya went into a pachinko building, if you can even call it that. And it's basically 5 floors of screaming loud terror and hundreds of people chain smoking. And it's one of the most offensive attacks on my senses that I've ever experienced as a human adult.
It's like walking into
the floor is sticky, the air is a miasma, there are bright lights, and it sounds like you're in the factory where they made Crossfire.
I kid you. It sounds like you're inside a Transformer as it's transforming.
You're in a William Gibson novel.
I kid you not. I walked in healthy and I walked out sick.
Yeah, that's how
I actually got sick walking in. Like I walked in, I was just like, I know I'm not the same person that I was anymore. Like it felt like Jeff Goldblum warping across the room in the
So
Fly.
if you're in Japan and you walk by a pachinko and it's painted green on the outside, that's an echo pachinko where they won't let you smoke inside because Japanese people started complaining about the same things. And so those are much less filthy generally. Don't have the layers of grime. Did you see the Ghostbusters pachinko while you're there?
No, I saw the Batman one, which was terrifying.
Yeah, that thing's frightening.
My friend has an Evangelion pachinko machine in his bedroom in Connecticut, and it's the coolest, most "why is this here" machine I've ever seen. And it sounds like the Rapture. Like it screams through this one tiny tinny speaker, the Cruel Angels thesis, and it's just like then a bunch of balls fall out, and he'll forget to put the tray in, so the balls just go rattling across his floor.
So he makes a Home Alone
and
trap in his
mom will
apartment.
come in and be like, "Christopher, what are you doing?" It's ding 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 ding.
I know that every Evangelion or whatever,
Lily.
every Evangelion pachinko machine legally ships with a mother that walks in that goes, "What are you doing, Christopher?"
It is, the video games are, and arcade machines in general, entertainment machines, UFO catchers, Porokoro, which are the big photo machines, those still have some market there. And so something like Dissidia does make sense. You know, drunken salaryman at 3 a.m. can walk down the streets of Tokyo and pump $20 worth of.
Brian and I got drunk and went
that.
to Toys R Us last weekend, so
So I can't throw stones.
we really can't make fun of this. I mean, I love that in Japan you've got this. It's like you've got a 500 yen coin or whatever. You have $5 in your pocket.
Yeah.
You can go and you can buy a cool action figure. You just put a thing in, and a little bubble comes out, and you're like, Ashapon, there you go. That's my thing. Or you can go and have noises and lights at you, and you lose the money and nothing happens. You get some balls in a cup, and then you have to go home.
And you get cancer.
Or you can have a thing in the middle where you sort of try to make a thing happen with the UFOs, and maybe you get a toy, maybe you lose your money.
Now, at the risk of creating a terrible soundbite, you can trade those balls for cash. I mean, that's you go around the side of the building and there's a little Yakuza stand hidden around the back, and you trade.
You've been
balls
reading my
in for money.
Craigslist posts.
Exactly. But
Wait, there's a Yakuza stand?
oh yeah. I mean, the with at the thread of my life, a lot of these places are closely tied. So the Japanese mob is not nearly as separated from day-to-day society as it is here.
They're closer to a volunteer fire department than a real
in
criminal organization.
In a way. But yeah, a lot of the gambling is Yakuza controlled, Yakuza influence. And so you have these places where you can trade the balls in for prizes, or if you know where the little window is, you go outside the pachinko parlor, around the corner, and there's a little window, and there's a guy sitting there, and he'll trade the balls for cash. And he works for the mob, and they take a cut, and that's that.
I've got balls of steel.
So
moving on. What else we got?
Staying with Square Enix for a second. They announced that they're asking developers to pitch ideas for games based on Gex, Fear Effect, and Anachronox. So this is part of they had their program where they're like, hey, now that we have IDOS, we have all these properties that we don't care about.
Yeah.
But if you guys want to make games about them, you can.
That's the best thing they
I
can
think it's
possibly
fascinating.
do.
A lot of people
Yeah.
don't really know that part of game development is that there are studios that are
They just own things.
Yeah, but I mean there are studios that finish a project and they're waiting for their next one to come along, and they just go, do you guys want to make a mock Gears of War game and see if Epic wants to buy it? And they just put together this pitch. And then it never sees the light of day, and then it ends up on a site like Unseen64. Shout out to those guys again. So I think
Are you on their payroll? What is happening?
I am.
he just loves good things, and he wants to spread the word.
So I think this is really cool, and it's also like the Gex thing is amazing to me because that is so 90s.
Yep.
It is such a 90s character. Like
Yes.
everything about that guy is garish and neon and
Dana
beautiful.
Gould.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's a Paula Poundstone jacket. Like it's just amazing.
So I printed off the Wikipedia page because I didn't realize Gex had a story. Brian, if you want to read just a couple paragraphs of the Gex story,
do that.
Start at story, go to the next page. This story gets weird.
Gex and his family live in Maui, Hawaii. His mother raised him and his 3 younger siblings while their father worked for NASA. What?
Yep.
Gex's hobbies include spending time with his friends, surfing, playing the ukulele, and throwing poi parties. It feels like they tried to write pot and then they just skipped the letter, and it's the same thing. One day, Gex's mother... This keeps going. One day, Gex's mother gets a phone call from NASA. What? Explaining that Gex's father and 10 human volunteers died when their rocket exploded on the launch pad. According to the manual, the explosion was caused by a Band-Aid floating in one of the fuel tanks. Soon, the Gecko family's carefree life is shattered when Gex bottles up his emotions and takes refuge in front of the television to get over the tragedy, only to become obsessed. 3 weeks later, he becomes an addict to TV. Wow, so Gex is really based on the death of a paternal figure and, the serious depression that follows from television addiction. 3 weeks later, he becomes an addict to TV after several unsuccessful attempts to get Gex to stop watching TV and consulting with a minister and friends at work. Wow, he turned to religion for a moment. Gex's mother decides it is time for a change. The Gecko family moves to Encino, California, home of Pauly Shore. Gex's TV is taken away and he flees from home. After several months of living on the streets, Gex inherits an enormous amount of money and he moves back to Maui to live in a mansion and buys the world's largest TV. This is still going. Are you kidding me? While watching TV one day, Gex swallows a passing fly, not knowing it is sort of a miniature transmitter. You don't need any of the story before this to get to where we are right now. Moments later, a huge hand shoots out of the screen and grabs Gex by his neck, pulling the young Gecko into his own TV. The cold claw belongs to Rez, the overlord of the media dimension, who intended to make Gex his new mascot and conquer the world. This is still going. Gex traverses through the worlds of the media dimension based on different genres, the Cemetery, New Toonland, and many, many more, which I'm not reading. This is amazing.
Yep.
Okay, so I really think we ought to ask listeners, viewers, to just submit their best Gex pitches for the sequel.
I would love to see a Gex that is given the same level of like character rebuilding that the new Tomb Raider was given. Like, I want all of that. I want it to be the most bleak game about a lizard wearing sunglasses you've ever seen.
Kenneth Branagh's Gex.
Yeah. I want Darren Aronofsky's Gex.
Oh, there we go.
I want the wrestler, but with Gex.
The Gexler.
That's really all. Whenever there's a dumb '90s video game character, I'm like, I want a game that's like that crossed with the wrestler.
You want that character to get a job at the meat counter and he cuts his finger and he's just bleeding all over the place.
I really do want a Duke Nukem game where he's like meeting his daughter and he's like, "Hey, baby," and she's like, "Why don't you ever call mom?" And he's like, "I've got balls." She's like, "No, stop."
Man, you really like Duke Nukem. I didn't realize that.
Why would 10 humans work with a lizard at NASA? I'm stuck on this. I'm sorry.
Experimentation, maybe.
I'm sorry. So this is what they're throwing out there. They're like, anybody can make this game.
Yeah.
Can they throw this story away?
No, they shouldn't.
Why
would you guys,
on
a kind of parallel note, did you guys play Bubsy 3D?
Yeah. Oh, they're really interesting.
The newest one?
Yeah,
the
one
Arcane Kids?
Yeah.
Where Bubsy goes to the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, the LACMA. Mm-hmm. It's the weirdest thing. You guys at home, you should all go find this. You can play it for free online. It's a weird Unity game. It's about Bubsy dying and going to hell after visiting an art exhibit.
That sounds amazing.
It's the best thing. It's just the best thing.
No, I've never played this.
I want this to happen to Gex. Like I want a thing where they're like, why can't we explore this lizard character? Why? Mm-hmm. Clearly, there's a lot of stuff to explore. There's a lot of deep themes.
I like your kind of wrestler angle where everyone's telling him to let it go, but it's just specifically about the 90s.
Yeah.
And it's actually, which is interesting because we live in a 90s obsessed generation right now.
Sure.
Where people are just like, oh, I can't do thing you can't remember about the 90s, the snap
Pogo balls.
Shut up. Stop
Pogo
remembering
balls.
the 90s and start living now. But I like this idea of this character just being stuck back there, and he doesn't understand why because he started watching TV out of addiction and depression because his dad died at NASA. Mm-hmm. What the hell?
Dude, games are weird, right?
Yeah.
Band-Aids are very dangerous in rocketry.
Also, what a totally just bizarre piece of minutia.
I know.
Like, here's the debris, the specific debris that caused the death of this cartoon gecko's father.
Dude, this is still the least weird thing about the 3DO. That story right there. I mean, that's honestly, as weird as all that is, all of that is far less weird than the existence of the 3DO in the first place, which led to the existence of Gex. So I mean...
All right, so let's bring that little lizard back.
He's coming back soon. Game of the Year 2016. Okay, we have one more news story. Jared, I'm gonna turn it to you because you're probably really excited about this.
Yeah, I am actually. So we've got this Housemarque and Eugene Jarvis making a game. So Eugene Jarvis, not the supercomputer that Tony Stark uses to build evil robots, but Eugene Jarvis, in fact, influential game designer. Most important games are Robotron 2084, Defender, Smash TV, Stargate, Narc, which is not one
Cruisin'
of,
USA.
Yeah, let's forget Narc and Cruisin' USA and just push them off the
excuse
I
board.
love
me?
Cruisin'
Yeah.
USA.
Only 90s kids will remember Cruising the USA.
Okay, yeah. 17 BuzzFeed reasons. 90s kids remember Cruising USA. No, but mostly known for these masterpiece shooters. Just these amazing games with quirky controls, dual joysticks. This guy, he didn't invent the dual stick shooter, but he perfected it.
Yeah.
Defender, which is just sort of like trying to use a typewriter to control a spaceship in an action game. It somehow works.
Yep.
It's great. And now he's working with these guys to build another, I assume, wonderful arcadey style game, which is kind of
And
their
obviously,
wheelhouse.
Housemarque is exactly their wheelhouse. From Resogun to Super Stardust
Exactly.
to Dead Nation. It's super exciting. I like the idea of these sort of classic pillars of video games coming back and working with like a small sort of indie studio to be like, hey, we understand how games exist now and we've made a lot of successes, but you are also wildly influential to our medium as a whole. So let's get together
That's an
and do
awesome.
something rad.
That's an awesome concept.
Yeah, Resogun is Defender 3. I mean,
Okay.
they're so influenced by his work anyway. So this is sort of like this is like being at a video game company that produces games that are derivative of Super Mario Brothers or Zelda, and Miyamoto coming in to collaborate with you. You know, for them, that's what this is like.
My brain went there too.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I would love to. I mean, we should actually open that up to a discussion for a later episode of sort of like
what pairings.
Yeah. Like
We'd want to see.
what legends and sort of like newer teams do we want to see form together on a new game?
By the way, kids, go back and play Robotron 2084. Best arcade game ever.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. Actually,
you?
That's
Yeah.
I had a Robotron 2084 cabinet that somebody was throwing out, and I just happened to be driving by when I lived in New Jersey, and I shoved it in the back of a car awkwardly, and had my friend kind of like hold on for dear life to bring it home, and like didn't work very well, but it's such a beautiful machine, and it's such a great game. It's like if you like games like Resogun and you like games like Super Stardust and Geometry Wars, like go back and play Robotron because it really is.
Is there an HD remix of that I could get?
There's probably ways you can play that.
Yeah.
There's a terrible
I feel like you can play it in
PlayStation
the browser
remake
now.
in 3D, and
no.
it was
There was a
on,
Robotron 64, right?
there was. That's right. There was an XBLA for a while, and I think they delisted it.
Yeah.
If you want to play it though, where we live, just go down to High Scores Arcade in Alameda. They have a beautiful cabaret
But that's on an
version of
island.
it.
What if the bridges break?
Well, then go to Museum Mécanique. They've got one there too.
But it's on the water. What if the tides roll in?
Or you can probably play it in a browser for free now because
Yeah,
it's
probably that
2015.
too.
Probably.
Yeah, but you need 2 sticks to play it right. It doesn't work otherwise.
Yeah, that's true. So just get 2 sticks.
Yep. That's that was a good point. If you
we
have cool pairings, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know.
Tweet at
What's your game pitch?
Email us.
What old man do you want to see work with a bunch of young indie teens in Montreal or Toronto?
That's amazing. So we also have a big list of PlayStation games coming out this week. The Andrew Goldfarb list of dun, 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 dun,
I don't know this. I don't know this.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Andrew Goldfarb
good
list
song?
of things that we love Andrew Goldfarb for.
Max, you want to read these?
Sure, I'll take
It's a big
this.
list of games.
I always appreciated his humility.
Yeah.
Dead Man's Cross is coming out for Vita digitally. Dead or Alive Dead or Alive 5 last round. Finally, the last Dead or Alive 5 is coming out. That's coming out PS4 digital and retail with all the bikinis that you could possibly want in a game.
Too many bikinis.
Hand of Fate
Have you
coming out
guys
for
seen
PS4
the disc art
digitally.
for that game, by the way?
No.
Sorry?
The disc art for Dead or Alive?
Is it gross?
It's just it's like a puddle. It looks like a wet disc. I'm not kidding you. Jeff Gersman just tweeted this earlier this morning.
Okay, now I want to get it.
Yeah.
Physically.
It's a big wet disc.
Physically. So Hand of Fate, Beyond the 13 Gates at the End of the World, the game of
Beyond.
life and death is played. Okay,
Gates.
The Order 1886, we talked about this. That's coming out for the PS4 digitally and retailally. Available on 220.
On Friday, which is weird. Why do games come out on Fridays?
To make an impression, to kick the door
statement.
down. Yeah.
Just trick
They're like,
me.
we don't do Tuesdays.
Yeah.
We're filmic.
This is not your grandfather's release date.
That's when movies come out on Fridays, not like games or comic books that come out on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Or movies that come out on Wednesdays
It's now just to get massive
to get more
weekends.
money.
Yeah.
Paparazzi is coming out for PS4. What is that?
I don't know.
I think it's a game where you take pictures of people.
The celebrity runs, dashes, and hides while the paparazzi tries to take constant photos of them.
Sounds
Okay,
like
I smell a
Sneak
Let's
King.
Play. That sounds awesome.
That sounds like Sneak King.
Yeah.
Like, it's-
Yeah, there's Pillar, PS4, digitally. Lost in an intimate snowy town, a pallet of individuals are in search of a mysterious artifact said to bring great knowledge and understanding. How are this many games coming out? This is awesome. Qbert Rebooted is coming out for PS4, PS3, and Vita.
I was so
It's a three-way
excited.
cross-buy.
Oh, sorry to interrupt.
Did you do the same thing I did, Jared,
What's
where you
that?
read that headline, you said Qbert Rebooted, and then you looked at the pictures of it, and you're like, why did you do this?
Why do you have a
Why must you-
flaccid genitals for a nose on this thing?
Still,
and
yeah.
why does it look like a
You know what's
crappy
funny?
cell phone game?
Is Qbert is one of those characters that, like, I joked for years, like, we see HD remakes and then reboots all the time, but Qbert was one of those things I was like, nah, you can't do anything with that guy. That's just like, he's a weird snake-nosed monster that fights real snakes, and they fight on a pyramid, and none of it makes sense. They'll never bring this. Oh, it's back! Damn it!
Yeah.
I was actually excited because this is one of those old games, one of those good old games that hasn't been done to death.
Yeah.
Like hasn't been remade over and over. There was a Qbert 2. It's weird. There was a Qbert 3 on the Super Nintendo. But by and large, it's not really had much done with it. And I thought there's still some room to explore. It's a neat principle.
Yeah.
The idea of controlling territory and changing the color. But it looks like a crappy cell phone game. What I saw. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm being unfair to it.
I like it when he swears.
I like that as well.
I think it's a funny time, and I like snakes.
He was great in Wreck-It Ralph.
He was.
He was wonderful.
He got a
on
golden gold
record.
for that, didn't he?
But
Yeah, he did.
the character
Congrats,
design
Qbert.
in the new one is the worst. I just can't look at him without being like, why?
Wait,
why
do we
is-
know, is the new one like a take on the wrestler?
No,
It's a reimagined, rebooted version with state-of-the-art 3D gameplay and graphics that remain faithful, and he has to come to terms with his illegitimate daughter.
yeah. I
Ram.
just want to
And he
cry.
may or may not.
And then
die
we've
at the
got
very last.
Treasures of Montezuma Arena, which is coming out digitally for PS3. Fight to survive. Help Montezuma make his way through the dark catacombs of a sinister ziggurat. 10 points for the word ziggurat in the description. That's a cool word.
Why would I help that guy? Doesn't he give people water curses?
I think, yeah. What, Treasures of Montezuma, what, like Mylanta?
Water.
Food poisoning is what my brain was looking for, but because it doesn't operate like
Water curses?
My brain is really like if you gave those when people get those refrigerator magnets that just have a bunch of different words and
Yeah.
it's just like jalapeno car.
I feel like you're going to go to France, you'll be like, pardonnez-moi, which way to the water temple? They're going to be like,
Can I meet President Horse, please? How do I eat the sand?
and there's Trivial Pursuit Live, which is exactly what it sounds like. That's for PS4 and PS3, digitally only. If you like Trivial Pursuit,
If you want that game for free, you can play it on the side of ketchup bottles now because that's an actual thing they do.
you can go to some diners where they have those cards on the table. I have a good time with those.
Yep. Ask for the coloring books and just draw whatever you want.
Yes.
Make a
Impress,
non-canonical fish.
impress your date by knowing about 80s politics.
Fool your friends.
Go Dukakis. Okay. Demos and betas. Pillar is getting a PS4 beta if you want to know about an intimate snowy town full of a palette of colorful characters, but you're not that invested in a palette of colorful characters.
But no
There we go.
ziggurats. No ziggurats. There.
Watch out for Montezuma's Revenge. It shows up in your poop, apparently.
The water curse.
The water
Yeah.
curse.
We had one last email I wanted to read, and it's from rentals@listing7.rent.com. And it was
right.
sent to beyond@ign.com.
Yeah.
And it said, for the week of February 6th to February 13th, we, beyond@ign.com, contacted no one, saved nothing, but we viewed two things. Evidently, we viewed the Meadowbrook Apartments in State Line, Nevada.
Okay.
And we also viewed the Lake Vista Apartments in State Line, Nevada.
So what you're doing here, A, is you're reading spam on the show, and
I'm
B,
okay with that. I
you're
think
implying
it's
that somebody is. No, I think this is great.
I think
you're
so-
implying that somebody is using the Beyond email address to try to rent a nice waterside home in State Line,
But they're
Nevada.
not that hellbent on it because they only looked at two
Two
listings.
of them, yeah, and we know that they want pets are okay, so I think they're worried about pets.
Who
Yeah.
are these? Who are these people? These
I like
mysteries?
the idea of being hacked to just casually sort of look at State Line houses.
Hey, here's a great Redfin update. There's new listings in your area.
When they find a body under one of these houses,
Yeah,
we're not
sure.
going to be laughing anymore.
That's going to be creepy.
Unless it's a clown.
So, Marty, thank you for handpicking that beautiful email
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
those two listings.
Yeah,
Head on over to rent.com to, I guess, pay rent.
Yeah. Or just learn about tickets for a hot musical that came out like 30 years ago.
Yeah. If you hate the idea of owning something, go to rent.com and just then you can not have it but still pay like you do.
There you go.
I want to own, but I can't.
Well, you should
You want a
look
piece
at
of my heart?
Look at
Aw,
rent.com then,
Yeah.
because you can rent a ownership. I don't know. Anyway,
They're the
All right.
IGN of stuff you can't buy.
I think it's time to go now, guys.
no,
get out
we
of
have one
here.
more
Do
segment.
we have one more segment? What's the segment?
It's the new segment.
Oh, what? Oh, the new segment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The
okay.
new segment.
I don't know.
Is the ghost gone?
Is the ghost gone?
The ghost is dead. We killed it with our rifles.
So it's a news segment, not to be confused with the news segment?
No, it's a new
A news segment.
Time for something new.
Is it a new segment called Hang Around?
Yeah, it's called Hang Around.
Hang in there?
No, this is something we have ideas for a lot of new segments.
Yeah.
But one of them that we're super excited for is called the we're calling it Beyond's Essential 50.
Yes.
Do you want to explain what that is, Max?
Yeah. So basically, we decided that there are a lot of PlayStation games out there.
Yeah.
They made a whole bunch of them over the course of 4 different PlayStations and 15 smaller PlayStations that could fit into different sized cargo pockets on your pants.
Yep.
So we decided that we should kind of create sort of a collection of the essential games. How it's going to work is one of us is going to show up with a cool book report about, not a book, but a game we think should be an essential PlayStation title across all the Sony platforms, and then explain what's so great about it, and then the rest of us will vote on whether or not we agree and whether or not it sounds like a cool essential thing.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to assemble 50 of these things.
Yeah, and they're going to be... We're primarily doing not just first-party things, but things that we're associating with Sony. So like something like BioShock can't be on here, or Mass Effect. But like I would say something like Snake Eater could. Even though Snake Eater went on to different consoles and handhelds, but still sort of associate that as a PlayStation product.
It got its start there.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing as Final Fantasy VII. So Jared, you're fortunate enough to be number 1.
I'm honored.
Impress us.
All right, I'll do my best. So I thought hard about this, and at first I wanted to go with something that was just like a shoe-in. You know, you think about something like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which is just has to be there, maybe the best PlayStation game ever. Or you look at something like Final Fantasy Tactics, and then I realized, these are going to come along eventually. So instead I wanted to think about a game that was not the greatest PlayStation game ever, but that encapsulated what made the first PlayStation generation great. That wonderful experimental nature, that cheaper media. Compact discs were a big deal.
Yeah.
And they made it easier to try new things in games than it had been for a very long time. And so my nominee for Essential 50 is Square's Bushido Blade, developed by Lightweight, which is a 3-dimensional weapon-based fighting game for the PlayStation. It got a terrible sequel. It's now completely dead. But it's this wonderful, quirky, small game. And how many of you guys have played it? Have you played Bushido Blade? Okay,
Yeah,
you have.
I used to. I mean, during the PS1 era, I think I played literally every Square. I think I owned literally every Square game, including like from weird things like Saga Frontier 2, Brave Fencer Musashi and Einhander,
Deep cuts.
Right. Yeah, Einhander.
I was going to say, this is exactly a deep cut.
And and I went.
Okay.
I see what you're doing there with the swords. Now, so you have a small cast of characters, all of which are unique, and then you can pair them up with different weapons. So somebody's not locked into the weapon that you think would be default for them. You can try all kinds of combinations with them. So even though you have a small roster of fighters, there's actually a lot of different ways to go at it. The arenas are all interactive 3-dimensional places. It's like a beautiful beach at sunrise and on a Japanese coastline, or a bamboo forest like straight out of Ninja Scroll, or a few of these kind of iconic locations. And you fight, but there's no life bars.
What?
No, there's no life bars at all. Instead, it's purely realistic weapon-based combat. If you slice someone in the throat, they die instantly. No. If you stab somebody through the heart, they're dead. If you nick somebody in the leg, they might limp a little. Wow. If you injure, and it slows them down. You can fall on the ground and throw dirt in somebody's face, and it'll stun them for a second. If you're a ninja-type character, you might have shuriken hidden in your sleeve, and it certainly won't kill the guy, but it might disarm him for a second, or wound him, or slow him down. You can lose your weapon, and the other guy can pick it up and stab you with it, as they're laying there rolling around.
I love this concept. I'm amazed we don't get fighting games like this anymore.
Yeah,
also, especially now, because I know the way you're describing it, I'm picturing the coolest, most realistic. Like the vision in my head right now is like a John Woo movie, but I know it really looks like it's a bunch of triangles and squares.
It is a bunch of triangles and squares, but the art direction is good, despite the fact that it's a fairly primitive 3D game. The direction's great. So and there's not a lot of music. So like when you're at the bamboo forest, you just hear this kind of. Or when you're on the beach, you just hear the surf.
That sounds
and
wonderful.
You're standing there facing each other with no background music, looking across the way, and somebody moves, and sometimes a fight lasts 3 seconds, sometimes it lasts 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just depending on how the interaction goes.
I love that.
I
That's so
love
cool.
that
So
game.
this is actually a game that I've been told about numerous times by different people, and I've never been able to go check it out for whatever reason. I never took the time to do that. It's funny, though, because I know that a game that actually draws a lot from it is Nidhogg.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And it's that same sense of, I love the idea of, so many video games are reliant on numbers. They're reliant on this kind of very finite, kind of just organized sense of, what works and what doesn't. And this sounds like really kind of loose and crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it has that same, like Jared was saying, or like a game of Nidhogg, it can end so quickly. Like with one mistake it ends, or you can have this like super tense minute-long back and forth, which is just really amazing. And also, it's insane I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you said this was like when Sony introduced the discs, like they were able to take weird risks. You know, we were able to get games like Parappa the Rapper and like Intelligent Cube and it's the fact that they were doing this 18 years ago, 19 years ago, whenever it came out, and we're now just getting back to that risk-taking nature on digital games, I think is so cool and showed how progressive the PS1 as a whole was.
And that's why I chose this, because I feel like it, as well as any game, maybe better than most, it encapsulates that wonderful era. 1995 to 1999 for the PlayStation, people were trying just the most ridiculous stuff, and some of it was awful.
We call it the Clinton era.
Yeah, we're back to the night. Some of it was awful, but some of it was Einhander. You know, exactly. and that's just great. And I think that's part of what makes PlayStation, without getting too sentimental here, part of what makes PlayStation kind of magical in a nostalgic way for us is that they enabled that. The PlayStation 1 let people do things with games that weren't possible before. And that's why I think this game belongs in the Essential 50. Also, it's a lot of fun. The single-player campaign's neat. They got little tricks in there. I didn't even mention this. There's like an obfuscated honor system where you get different endings depending on whether or not you're sneaky. Like if you do like backhanded stuff in the sword fights, you can't get the good ending.
Yeah.
Like you throw dirt in somebody's face. Oh, tough. There's no signal. It'll tell you this is just like at the end, they're like, oh, you are dishonorable. Or else you just fight a guy with a gun at one point, and that sucks because one bullet kills you. But you can get him.
Is that like real life? Does a bullet kill you?
Why did you look at me? I haven't been shot.
Oh.
You look like you've
if
been
anyone
shot,
at this
though.
table looks like they've been shot, it's
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Have any of us ever been shot? I've never been shot.
What?
No, that's not a common thing. Most people like don't
I'm gonna
have
be honest,
that story.
most
to
IGN
tell.
editors haven't been shot.
I would say probably all IGN editors.
I'll bet you somebody here's been shot.
Probably someone on the video team.
They all shot.
They all look
Yeah.
like dock workers.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. I mean, you know, a few people have been shot in your life. There's probably somebody in the 100 people in here. Somebody's been shot.
I don't know what the odds are or the stats on people being shot. Is it 1 out of 100?
No, I think it's less. Actually.
like 1 in 1,000 people get shot.
I don't know.
I know that Michael on our video team got stabbed at one point.
That's like getting shot with a.
pretty close.
Yeah, that's shot with a knife.
Getting stabbed, I feel like is much more common. You know?
That's a good point.
Yeah. More people stab people than have guns to shoot people.
Also, more people survive getting stabbed than
There
getting
you go.
shot.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, and then they can live to tell the tale.
Yeah.
So
Bushido Blade.
yeah.
Yeah, Bushido Blade with the swords and the guns.
Yeah.
So I submit for your approval, gentlemen, this fine, innovative little game, which it remains a crowning jewel in the PlayStation library, and will run on your PlayStation 3 if you can find the disc somewhere, because I haven't been able to find any other legit way to play it.
Is it? It's not digital. Or
I don't think
anything
it's
like
on PSN.
Wow,
No.
damn.
Hunt that down.
I hope
We're
I'm not
gonna-
misinforming our audience, but
No,
I
we're
don't
going to
think it is.
single-handedly spike all the eBay listings right after this
Yes.
episode goes live.
Yep. Well, that's a
Single-handedly, 'cause
great
the other one got cut off.
that's a great kind of
By
entry into
Blade.
this.
Yeah,
So-
I'm going with yeah. Just especially for the reason that you said, like, yeah, the game is rad, but also because it's sort of like it's iconic of that era. Like it is that risk-taking era. So yeah.
Also, Jared could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves.
Yeah.
You're very good at this.
Is that a thing?
No, yeah.
Sweet, thank you.
Tommy Boy reference, you guys.
Oh, I
Only
forgot
90s
about
kids
that.
will remember that.
Ketchup jelly beans I know from A Boy and His Blob, but ketchup popsicles.
Did they ever really make the ketchup? I'm sure they did. They made hot sauce ones.
I'm
These
sure
guys
they
at Jelly
probably
Belly
did.
are street crazy.
Have you ever gone up there to the factory?
No, I really wanted to for years.
It's
though.
let's go together one day. It's so much fun.
Yeah, that sounds like we're going to
to
scare a lot of
Jelly
people
Beans.
on the way in.
Number one PlayStation podcast. This is Beyond. Should I close everybody out? I'm like,
Yeah, this has been great.
close
All right.
everybody
Thank you
out.
guys
It's
so
been
much.
fun.
Yeah.
I'm Max Scoville. You can find me on Twitter, Max Scoville. With me, Brian Altano,
Agent Bizzle on Twitter.
Bizzle. Marty.
I'm at McBiggity, 2
Yep.
G's and 2 T's.
I love you. You guys have the most just like cartoon teenager backwards hat skateboard names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever we try to get an adult job,
I'm
it's
sorry,
not gonna
Max Scoville.
It's what it says on my lunchbox.
You sound like one of the scientists that died in Gex.
Yeah. My bad. Jared, what's your thing on there?
Petty, Jared. So I'll bring it back to the boring. PettyCommaJared.
That's a lot.
Not an actual comma, it's actually spelled
Yeah,
out. And
I
not
know.
coma.
It's a terrible, terrible
Also,
Twitter handle.
you have a lot of letters, so people can't tweet long things at you. They can only tweet short things.
That's
sneaky
Patrick
trick.
like,
Jason.
I hate
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
stuff.
Ketchup, lollipop. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was sort of the first episode of
Thank you guys. That
2.0.
felt good.
Yeah, this was fun. I like talking to you guys.
Yeah, this is fun. Let's do this again someday.
I hope you guys enjoyed this at home. You can send us emails. It's just beyond@ign.com. Is that right? Yeah.
That's right.
And there's a Facebook group which is live and active and full of very charming, polite, wonderful people. So
Including
if you
us.
want to go, yeah,
Yeah.
you pop
Go
in there
talk
and
to
say
us in
hello.
there.
There's a lot of memes, so watch your step because it might get goofy and memey. There might be lulls. Is that how you say it? I don't even know. I feel really bad that I just said that out loud.
that was pretty bad.
Yeah, and of course for all your video game news, ign.com. A lot of cool stuff. Brian and I make videos. Marty writes things, and Jared.
Nobody really knows what I do around here.
You like decode the encrypted engrams of the dragon world.
That's what I do over there. Yeah. Well, I find collectibles.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
All right. And on that note, I guess we're done here.
Yeah.
All right.
Beyond.
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 Beyonce.
Beyonce.
Beyond.
Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.